Good morning and welcome to the John DeVito Show. This is take two. Let's hope we solve the audio problems we had in the first one. Eric, can you hear me this time, buddy? I checked everything twice. Hopefully you can hear me. All right, there we go. I don't know what happened. So anyway, welcome to the John DeVito Show. Today, we've got a special show today, and I'm excited to get back in to our interviewing of different podcasters on the Podbean platform. Today, we're going to be interviewing Michael Key. He has a show called The Real Conservative Talk Podcast, and there he is. And this time you can actually hear me, so I'm super excited. So we are really excited to have Michael Key on today. Excellent new talent on Podbean. He's got a great conservative talk show. Later in the week, we're going to have John Gale, who just popped into the studio also. So we're going to learn all about Michael Key today, kind of what makes him tick, what his show's about, and all that good stuff. And we certainly need another voice of reason in this world right now, because as we all know, things are just crazy right now. So things are nuts. But today's going to be a good one. So we're going to get to Michael in 1 second. And Michael, if you want to call in, we'll let you in right now. And I'm just going to give a brief introduction, and then we're going to go right to you. So over the weekend, I'm not sure if anybody saw this on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, but now you know that my son, Matt, and I like to do a little acting. Now, if any of you guys are Dexter fans out there, check out the episode that just dropped this past Sunday. In the wrestling scene, there is a ridiculous close-up of me in Dexter. So I'm one of the parents for Moose Creek High School in New York, and I'm at a wrestling meet, and I'm cheering on, and they literally zoomed in right on me. I actually took a picture of it on my screen. My entire family was laughing. We didn't expect that at all. So, yes, I am now a movie star also, and I feel very proud to be in Dexter, the series. So, Eric, buddy, how are you doing? And, I want to thank you for kind of encouraging me to get back to these interviews, Eric. And this is going to be a good one, too. What do you think?
Welcome back, and hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. And I think since about the last time you did your last Podbean Live, hopefully everybody had like a good Thanksgiving holiday, and our Jewish friends in Israel and around the world, hopefully they also had a very happy Hanukkah. And of course, we've got Christmas and New Year's coming up. And besides having Michael Key on today and having on John Gale on Thursday, we are actively in the process of working on booking a couple more friends that might be interested in coming on. And so stay tuned for that as we get it confirmed.
Yeah, we have a lot going on right now. We have a number of people that have reached out to us, and I'm going to interview anybody that comes forward. I actually have a guy who was kind of funny. I had a guy reach out to me on Twitter when I posted I'm looking to schedule more interviews, and he said, I would love to come on your show. Now, I'm going to quote this. This isn't me saying it. He said, quote unquote, I am a liberal pansy, though. So I responded back. I responded
Matt
back.
From
I don't know if I would say it that
Awesome.
way. Right. I thought that was funny. But like I said to him, I'm like, listen, I'm a guy that I'm 53 years old. I'm not a young kid anymore. And I grew up in a home that was a Democratic home. My parents were Democrats. My grandparents were Democrats. I was a Democrat. I voted for Bill Clinton twice. And for me, after what I've seen over the last number of years, it makes it impossible for me to go in that direction, because I've seen this country just change in a lot of ways since I was a kid. And we are every day losing freedoms that we've had, for a lot of us, so many of our lives. And it's scary when you see some of the things that are happening, some of the things that are being taken away from us, some of the things that government wants to take away from us. I just can't support that organization. However, I also come from a generation where I believe in respecting other people. And just because I have a political difference with somebody or a difference in some other aspect of my life doesn't mean I can't like that person. It doesn't mean that we can't have a healthy dialogue and talk back and forth respectfully with each other. So I'm looking forward to having him on. We might do it this weekend, but I just thought his description of himself was pretty funny, because that's not how I view anybody that is a Democrat or a liberal. I make jokes sometimes with friends, but that's not how I feel. So, hey, Michael, I want to get to you and just kind of welcome you to my show. Welcome, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Now, Eric, aren't you proud of me? Because I'm a borderline boomer. I'm a Gen Xer.
Hi, Angie. Hi, Sly Dog.
And I sometimes I forget to hit the right button, and I can't hear my people who come in for interviews. So that's something that sometimes happens.
Hi, Mr. A.
But listen, Michael, I read your little your bio that you sent me via Twitter, and it looks like you've got a pretty impressive background. You've got your degree in economics, and you started your podcast on YouTube, and it kind of went in one direction, and now you've taken it another direction. Let me ask you, why did you decide to get on and start speaking on YouTube and then now here on Podbean? What was the reasoning behind doing a podcast?
Well, it wasn't meant to be a podcast at first. It was kind of just making videos regarding financial concepts, like whether it be, talking about mutual fund stocks, options trading, things like that. And I realized quickly that I'm not very good at making those videos. I'm a finance guy. I'm not a tech person. And I say this all the time. Uh, well, after a lot of trial and error, I just kind of went to talking, and I picked a topic one day. It was Social Security, I remember. And I ended up running numbers behind Social Security as far as what the trade-off would be of getting rid of Social Security and doing something else. And it was just crazy. And I ended up going on a big rant. And I've always been pretty, conservative and political, but I've always had to kind of hold it back because of the industry I work in. I work with a lot of clients, right? And you don't know who you're working with, but
very true.
But I just found out that, uploading the audio after you get done talking to Anchor or where I started or Podbean was a hell of a lot easier than going and editing videos. So I kind of just, went down that road, and there's a lot of compliance stuff you have to go through when you work in my industry and you're making these financial videos, and it just wasn't worth it to me. But, I kind of just caught on talking about the political stuff going on, and brought on one of my friends to kind of help me co-host, and it just kind of took off from there. It's been about 3 months now, and enjoy it.
I tell you, it's funny how things happen, isn't it? I mean, for me, I've been kind of on hiatus lately because my job started to pick up again, after COVID and everything that's been going on. But for me, now you look like you're a pretty young guy. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
29.
Okay, so you're 29 years old. I'm 53 years old. And for me, the reason why I get into this is I was a broadcasting major back in college, and I wanted to be the next Howard Stern. And, I did that briefly and realized it was a very, very difficult way to make a living. So I ended up getting into business, did that for many years. And then when this pandemic hit, it was kind of funny. I didn't even realize you could do like live podcasts like this. I didn't know it was a thing until I saw it. I think I have a teenage daughter. She was watching the TV show Roswell, and I saw a guy with his computer from a diner actually doing a podcast. I said to him, like, what is he doing? And she's like, oh, he's doing a podcast live. I'm like, you could do those live? And she's like, yeah. So immediately within a week, I started doing a podcast, and she's joined me on some of my shows. And it's funny, my show has taken a lot of different avenues over the course of time since I've been here. I mean, I did a little bit of Howard Stern in the beginning, and then, decided to get into some helping topics where I helped some people that were abused in different ways, and then got into politics just because it's something that I think is very important in society today. And I know not everybody loves to hear it, but I think it's important for voices to come out and speak about what's happening in this country. And I mean, for you now, I did read a little bit about you. And I guess I should ask you, what do you feel right now about what's happening in the country? I mean, I have a lot of my own thoughts, but I mean, do you feel like we're in trouble right now in the United States? I mean, what are our biggest challenges? And I'd just kind of like to hear your overview as to what you think's happening right now in the country and in the world, if you'd like.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if you've watched my show. I know a few people in the room have listened in, and as far as saying, are we in trouble? I don't really like the term when people start saying, oh, we're in trouble, or we're gonna, this is the end of us, or whatever. Is politics getting a lot more divisive? Absolutely. I agree with that. And will it keep getting divisive? Yeah. I don't think that there's anything that's going to kind of stop that. Maybe there will be, but I doubt it. But we're still the United States of America for the time being. There's obviously things I disagree with the current administration, and disagree with very strongly. And I voice that, and I don't hold that back. But when you think about the road we're going down right now with Joe Biden, people thought the same thing with Trump. People thought the same thing with Obama. People thought the same thing with Bush. So it's nothing new as far as, you still got to try and put yourself in other people's shoes, because I know that as strongly as I feel about what Joe Biden's doing, people felt just as strongly about what Trump did. The only difference I feel is I try to base my opinion and what's going on currently and why I disagree with Joe Biden based off of factual things that I can prove on paper, and things that I think that I could offer solution-wise that would be better off than what they're trying to implement. A lot of the difference with the people that didn't like Trump was it was not anything based off of policy that he made. It was more so based on his persona. And I just don't think that's right. And I think that is a problem that we have here in the United States.
I think you're right. I think one of the big issues we have in the U.S. right now is it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter, when Biden's out, whoever comes in next, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican or an independent, there's going to be one side that is out to destroy the other side. And again, we've talked about this a lot on my show, that again, if you look at Sun Tzu in The Art of War, divide and conquer. That's a big strategy by a lot of, I think, the powerful bodies in this country and in the world. And if you look at us right now as a country, you look at, black versus white, you look gay versus straight, you look Republican versus Democrat. We are a divided nation. We are a nation that's separated. And I believe it's a plan. I believe it's something that the government and the media outlets are doing to us on purpose. And I think as American people, we need to be smarter than that going forward. So again, until we unite and until we realize that the American people really have the power, I think we're always going to be behind the eight ball. If you look at what's happening right now in this country, and again, I agree with you with everything you said, when you're just talking about, when Trump was in, now with Biden, but you have a lot of people that are still defending Biden at this point. And again, I knew that I wasn't going to agree with Biden, but I didn't think things were going to be this bad, in my opinion. Now, some of the things I've seen so far, high gas prices, supply chain issues, illegals pouring into the country, COVID surge, which of course they blame Trump for, but no one's blaming Biden for. And we both know that it wasn't anybody's fault. It has to do with the pandemic, who actually created the pandemic. Tens of thousands losing their jobs over mandates. Thousands of businesses can't find employees. Record inflation, botched withdrawal in Afghanistan, bombing of Syria, Russia about to invade Ukraine. What else do we need to talk about? I honestly, and I mean this with every bit of my being, of my heart, I'm 53. I remember as far back as Gerald Ford. I was a little kid. I barely remember him. I remember Jimmy Carter. I remember Bill Clinton. I remember Reagan, Bush. I remember both Bushes. I remember both of them. What we're seeing right now is the worst I've ever seen the country. I remember my parents when Jimmy Carter was president waiting in those long gas lines. But I have never seen the country in the state it's in right now, with the exception maybe of the Great Recession, where obviously the economy was, in rough shape. But with all these things going on, what's the solution? And why are all these things happening in your opinion? Why are we seeing all these negatives all of a sudden happening all at once? Is this a Biden issue or is it something bigger?
Well, I think a lot of it can be a Biden issue. You can point a lot of that to it. Here, I want to go back to kind of where, so last year we had the pandemic.
Right.
We're shut down at the end of March and April. I would say 90 to 95% of the country are shut down in some form. People want to blame Trump for whatever he did. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think blaming any president in that circumstance, because hindsight is always 2020. Who the hell could have made a decision and said that it would have been better or worse? The problem I have with politicians on the right and the left is they always want to look back and complain about decisions that were made, especially on something such as COVID, but they never, ever, ever have a solution to that problem. They never ever say what they would have done. It's always my plan moving forwards. They never ever go back and say what he should have done. They get on Trump for having travel bans from China.
Yes.
They call him xenophobic. Well, that's where your racism part comes in right there, because now you have someone that any move he takes, they're going to point out racism. Now you have a current administration that anything they do is based off of racism. It's not based off of this is what's going to help the entirety of the country, right? Every agenda they have is based off of racism. You can go on the White House website, and every agenda that they have will have, helping Black and brown communities. And is that bad? No. But you also have to look at it in the entirety of the country as well. You're not just one race's president. You're everyone's president.
Right.
And, I think that certain going back to, I think a lot of our issue derives from is, and where Biden's at fault is this administration is allowing a society to be almost too accepting of everyone. And when I say that, I'm saying that we're allowing it to be too soft. We're focusing so much on catering to everyone inside of our country while other countries are getting ready to go to war. And that's where we're going to lose our foothold as being the most powerful country in the world, is because we're so soft as a society now. We're so soft that we couldn't handle when Trump said one mean thing about someone. Let alone, and it just completely blinded us to the policies that he did, the good policies that he did. And
I can say this from my perspective. Again, you're 29, I'm 53. The differences that I've seen over the course of my lifetime was when I was a kid. I mean, stuff that was being said was just stuff that was being said, and people could say different things. I mean, we watched TV shows like All in the Family, like The Jeffersons, like Good Times, and things like that, where there were a lot of comments that were made that were racial, and honestly, no one really took it personally. It was kind of funny, in a lot of ways, and people weren't as thin-skinned as they are today. And we have such a huge problem with people just being offended by everything today. But honestly, I think that the government's end game there and the media's end game there is to make sure that they're controlling us, because again, censorship is nothing more than preventing free speech. So it's kind of a covert way of them taking away our ability to speak freely. And again, we're not going to take away your free speech, but if you say something incorrectly, we're going to destroy you. I mean, it's basically the same thing, right? I mean, that's what we're seeing now.
It is the same thing. And you have to go back and you look at, okay, so the First Amendment has always had consequences, right? You can say what you want, but there could be consequences to whatever you say. If you're at work and you said something about your boss, in some states he could fire you and not have a basis behind it. And that's something that's always been there, but now it's getting out of control, because now it's, like where my big platform is on Facebook. That's where the majority of my followers are. Right. For the podcast. And one thing that has helped me grow is making these parody videos, making fun of Biden and the squad and all them. And they're funny, but they're not very PC. In fact, they're pretty raunchy, some of them. But it's just amazing how many people, even conservatives, can't take it as a joke, or they take it so literal. And what... maybe this is a little bit of a conspiracy, I don't know, but this is where I think a lot of this is deriving from, and where we're heading is, I think that, and it shows with the critical race theory stuff.
Yep.
If you look at where critical race theory derives from, it derives from the Communist Manifesto, from critical theory.
Right.
If you look at the teachings of critical race theory and where they're trying to head with that, all they're doing is using race as a basis. But the end goal is a criticism of capitalism. They're doing it because we have people in the country, and I don't, how it started, I'm not sure. But we have people in our country that don't want to either work, or they are jealous that people are successful. Instead of embracing the fact that you can be successful in the United States and live the American dream, you have people that they want to bring everyone else down because they can't play the game and bring themselves up. And, allowing certain socialist tendencies and communist tendencies to develop will just grow a society that is not willing to work, not willing to get things done. It's going to make us unproductive, and it is going to lead to our downfall. And I think that some of these other countries, like a Russia or China or whoever, are seeing that, and they're going to feed into it. And so not only do you have a president and an administration that is willing to try and implement a lot of these socialist agendas, you have countries outside that are willing to fuel the fire as well, because they know that it's going to be the downfall.
No, I mean, you're right on the mark. I agree with you completely in all of that. And, to take a step back about something else you were talking about, I don't think you've been on my show before, and I've been taking a hiatus, so I haven't heard your show yet, but I will change that now that I'm kind of back on the platform a little bit. But one of the things that I've talked about a lot on this show is you talk about, the racism that was associated with Trump. And to me, that absolutely drives me crazy. And what really gets me is there have been a couple of instances where people on social media have said that about me. And my point is, you know nothing about me. You know nothing about my background. You don't know who I am. For me, I've said time and time again, I don't believe in welfare. I don't believe in food stamps. I don't believe in Section 8. Now, that is not because I believe that people don't need help. I do believe people need help. And I do believe that there is a certain segment of the population that do need those services. For example, my oldest son, Matt, who has autism, he's 19 years old. He just went to college. It's not working out. He's coming home in 2 weeks, and he's going to be working at a local grocery store. Now, one of the things that gets me about him is he's going to be making $13 an hour. That's the minimum wage here in Massachusetts, which I realize isn't bad in other places in the country. But
it's pretty good.
when he started working, right, he was getting Social Security, and his Social Security payment, I think, was like a total of $600 a month. I mean, again, you can't get a 1-bedroom apartment here in Massachusetts for less than $1,500 a month. So they were giving him $600 a month. And then when he started working at Market Basket, bagging groceries, they cut his Social Security payment in half. And he was working part-time, maybe making $200 a week. So he didn't have enough money to live on his own, but the government still cut his benefits down to like nothing. And he was a guy that really needs it. What gets me, and I see this so often, I don't know if you agree or not, but in my opinion, the Democrats have done nothing more than create a dependent society where you've got generation after generation that are hooked on welfare. They don't have a way to get off it because they may make more money on welfare than they do going out working. And you have generations of kids that are growing up watching their parents on welfare, so they end up on welfare. And we'll keep the checks coming as long as you check that voter ballot for the Democratic Party when times come around. I mean, what does that do for people? I mean, it keeps them entrenched in the inner cities. They're stuck in poverty. The children aren't learning work ethic because their parents are forced to stay home to collect their benefits so they can feed their children. And to me, this is just a horrible cycle of abuse that the Democrats have, not just Black Americans, but Hispanic Americans, white Americans, there's a lot, Asian Americans, there's a lot of people that are caught in this cycle of poverty that, in my opinion, is the 2021 version of slavery. So when I hear that Trump was racist, I mean, Trump was a guy that was providing jobs. He was giving people a way out of these inner cities where they had no jobs. He was bringing manufacturing jobs back to this country and was giving people the opportunity to maybe earn a living, maybe to go out and work and have some self-esteem and maybe send their kids to college and hopefully within a generation have a better life for their family. But I don't see how that's racist, but keeping people dependent on welfare isn't racist. I mean, to me, it's just a huge conundrum of just BS that I'm just tired of hearing, with the parties. I don't know how you feel about that, but I mean, that's just my feeling on welfare. I mean, I think the Democrats have created a dependent society, and that's the way they want it.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because when you hear about, liberals and conservatives talk and you go down the road of welfare, right? The liberals will always paint that picture that conservatives are, racist, bigots, right? That they don't care about these people that need help. Here's the difference. And I've said this on my show. And if you do listen to the show, it's not, I went off, thought I took pride in it being unfiltered. Then I listened to some of these other shows on Podbean and I realized I'm nothing, but, it's what I agree with you. I don't like the welfare. I don't believe in the food stamps. I don't believe in all of that stuff. But I do believe in the people that need it. And when you are creating a society that is dependent on the government, well, then you're taking away resources from the people, maybe like your son and others, that actually need those resources.
Exactly.
That could actually benefit. Because here's what bothers me. And if I go, too far, let me know. But
go ahead. Let it go. Let it rip.
What bothers me is we have people that, and this goes from being taught, because I'm a younger person. I've been through school recently and I know what they taught me. There's a finite amount of resources. You don't just pull things out of your ass. Elon Musk said that not long ago, and it's true when it came to the manufacturing stuff during COVID. Like, you don't just pull resources out of your ass. There's a finite amount of everything. Even the government that's printing money has a finite amount of it, theoretically. Doesn't seem like it, but they do. And no one has ever lived in a nice Section 8 house. No one has ever gotten rich or wealthy from a government program, unless it's the person that's being a contractor working for the government, and usually has to do with something overseas. But the government only maintains a status quo of you being poor.
Right.
That's the only thing they've done in helping people. And when you have more people that are becoming dependent on the government, you're taking resources away from the people that do need it. If you have $100 being allocated towards, let's say, disability or not disability, that's a bad one, but food stamps, right? And you have people sitting around, and half of them are able-bodied people, and each of them are, 50 of them are able-bodied, receiving $1. And then you have someone maybe like your son or someone else who can't work or earn as much money. They're taking away what could be going to them. And it goes down to things like, the stock market, or funding universal health care, or, funding all of these programs that the current administration is dreaming about implementing. They don't realize you have to have the money there. And to get the money, even if you wanted to implement that stuff, you have to fix other problems first. You have to address certain things. And to address some of these things, you have to stop being so soft on people. One of those, and I went on a rant last Friday about this, you want to have universal health care. Okay, well, you have to address us being so fat, because as long as the United States is so fat, then they're not going to be able to have universal health care, because right now we already spend 18% of our GDP on healthcare spending alone, and the majority of that spending goes to obesity-related issues. Well, if you force kids to take PE for an hour a day growing up, and you incentivize people maybe through tax plan to go and exercise, maybe given tax deductions or tax credits to go buy some running shoes or clothes or to work out in or something like that, and you incentivize people to go do certain things, that would make your society more healthy. If you made society more healthy, you don't have to spend as much money on healthcare spending. And then you could free up some of those resources to maybe implement something like that. I'm not saying I agree with it, but if you are going to do something like that, then you have to have a plan that's a reasonable plan that is actually going to fix a solution, instead of maintaining a status quo of a whole society that's 42% of the United States is overweight, and say, well, we're just going to allow that to keep going and just pay for everything, every health issue that they have. You're going to go broke. So, that's where my problem is, and that's what the right and the left I have an issue with, is that all these politicians, they all have a problem. They all complain about a problem, but they never want to have a solution.
Hey, hold on one second. I want to address something really quickly. We have someone that came into the studio, and I did say ignore the troll, but we have a troll in. And judging by the comments that he made, he's obviously one of those people that probably suffers from having a micro penis. We get that the trolls generally are very small, down below the waist. Yeah. So for the troll that's
I see that name now. Yeah. Sure. Damn, they used my picture and everything, didn't they?
I know they used everything. But the thing of it is, you made the comment about the KKK. Take a look at who was the buddy of the KKK. That's Joe Biden. That's your boy. Joe Biden was the guy that was buddying up with the KKK. The Democratic Party is the party that voted against ending slavery. And the Democratic Party is the one that's behind slavery in 2021, where they have, unfortunately, poor Americans hooked on welfare. So while I appreciate
and guess who Biden and Clinton's KKK Lord and Savior was? Robert Byrd of West Virginia. Remember him?
And that's
if this troll is a woman, she's probably got micro tits.
Oh, Eric Kirk, you're getting a little saucy, my man. I haven't heard that out of you. But anyway.
Yeah. But they've been going to John Gale's show, he says. But we digress.
Careful, hopefully Dr. Cheryl doesn't hear that, my wife, because, that's unfortunately one of the afflictions that she'll gladly tell you about, that she suffers from that. But anyway, so, I love it when trolls come in and they try to upset people, whatever. The bottom line is,
we appreciate them upping the engagement score, and we will also make it a point to tell them to smile for the camera, because we've just reported them to Podbean to shut them down.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
And listen, one thing I want to tell you about Michael and Eric, I've told this story to you before, and this literally, breaks my heart. Now, my son Ethan, I have 4 kids, by the way, Michael, so I've got 4 teenagers, and I don't know if you're a dad yet. Let me give you some advice. Don't have 4 kids so close together, because now we have 4 teenagers. We didn't really think that through when we were young, and good God, hopefully we survived this. But they're all good kids, but they're still teenagers. So anyway, my son Ethan would work out at this gym in Worcester, Massachusetts. And when he was working out, it was too far away for me to drive home. So I would drive to the local Target area called Lincoln Plaza in Worcester, where there's a bunch of stores, and I could just get some walking in. And I'll tell you, I would walk there every night, and I literally would be on the verge of tears every night, walking by the homeless people that were living in cardboard boxes, that were living in tents. You had people that clearly had mental illness walking the streets that you could tell. I don't know if they had autism. I don't know what they had, but they, maybe schizophrenia. But I mean, they obviously had issues that were gone untreated. And like what you just said, when you have people that are on welfare that don't need welfare, it's taking away the money from people who truly need the help. Now, okay, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. Does that mean I think people shouldn't get help? Hell no. I mean, if there are people out there that need help, I have no issue with them getting assistance from the government. I have no issue with part of my paycheck going to help these people because they need it. And that's the society we need. We need to have a society where we are truly helping the people that need help, but not keeping people dependent on the government so you can gain political control over the country. And that's what I'm seeing on the part of the Democratic Party. And what gets me is I can't understand how people on the left don't see it. I mean, to me, it's so obvious. I mean, I don't know if you feel that way, Michael, but to me, I see it and it's just there and it's obvious. And maybe I'm crazy, but that's just what I see. I mean, I don't know if you see the same things I do, but I mean, it drives me crazy, No,
it is obvious. And that's why that's kind of like what got me into, my show and my podcast was I was always like, this is so obvious. I work in finance in the investment industry. One thing I never, ever, ever understood was how people that work in my industry could be liberal. Right. Like when I say liberal, I'm talking about like I have a buddy
Joe
that's Biden and them, right?
Yep. I have a buddy that's the president of a bank and makes a lot of money, most likely over 7 figures a year, and extremely liberal. And I just don't get it. It makes no sense.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about liberal as in social liberalism, maybe that they're all about helping, people and I get some of that, right? But I'm talking about like financially, like let's raise taxes on the rich, let's do this, let's do that. I'm like, you're working in an industry, especially me, where you have to go out, you have to get clients, you have to work, you get out of it what you put in. You're based on commission, a lot of it, right? That's like the most capitalist structure there is. And it's just crazy. I know mortgage brokers, I know realtors, I know other advisors that work off commission, that are all about making more money and selling houses and doing all that stuff. And yet they're like socialists. And I can never fathom, or I don't know if that's the right word, but I just can never understand where that comes from, especially when they're taking advantage of capitalism. I have a guy that's supposed to be on the show tomorrow, and he's on the left, and I actually came across him on TikTok. I was just messing around. He was doing a live, and he was like, hey, call up and debate me. He said he was on the left. Yeah, on TikTok. And he said he made the comment. I didn't call up and debate him, but he made the comment to someone else that asked, what do you think about capitalism and communism? And he said, well, I'm not a capitalist. I can tell you that. And I go and I look the guy up, and he's got a YouTube channel. He's got a Facebook page. He's on TikTok, has a very high following on TikTok. And I'm like, what is the reason that you go on these social platforms like a TikTok or a YouTube especially, and you start voicing your opinion? The only reason you do it is to gain traction and a following, and to monetize it. You're not taking that much time out of your day to do it unless you're going to monetize it. True. Now, if it's something you're just doing for an hour or two, then that's fine. But if you're doing stuff every single day, trying to gain following, right, and all that, like, let's be real here, and I think that's what I don't understand. People think that socialism or communism is this utopian way of living, and it sounds good on paper, and yet they're hypocrites when it comes to it. They're some of the most wealthiest people in our country.
It's based on corruption. It really is. I mean, it's based on complete corruption. And I've got to tell you, quick story about TikTok. I'm still bitter at TikTok. In the span of a couple of months, I created an account and very quickly had 15,000 followers. And I was reporting, everybody, listen to this now. I was reporting on the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. I was talking about the trial because, of course, the mainstream media TV stations aren't talking about it, even though it's the largest, pedophile case in history involving all the rich and powerful people in the world. So I was getting a lot of views, a lot of follows. One of my videos had 500,000 views. And all of a sudden, without warning, no warnings, no anything, they permanently banned my account. So TikTok is a company where here I am. I wasn't making up facts. I wasn't making up stories. I was reporting on what was happening in the courtroom every day because it wasn't out there on television. So I was reporting on that, and TikTok, without warning, banned my account. So apparently, TikTok is a company that supports the pedophiles. And again, of course, we know the pedophiles are people that run the country. They're presidents, they're royalty, they're actors, they're executives, and I get that these are their bosses that are shutting down people. But I mean, for me, 15,000 people in the span of a couple of months, and now I'm back up to 180 followers. I created a new account, so I'm going again, and I'm sure they'll ban that one very quickly. But it's just unfortunate in this country how we're seeing social media platforms ban free speech on one side of the aisle, it seems like, and they don't do it both ways, and that's just very unfortunate.
I'll give you one better than that. My first TikTok account, I started the week before Thanksgiving. And like I said, I made these, little parody, funny videos I was putting on Facebook. And that's how it's just a means to bring people to the page, right? Well, my brother said, hey, man, cut them up, put them on TikTok, and you'll get a lot of views. So I did. I hit the monetization stuff within a couple days. And that's with my account being restricted twice. I had probably 10 videos I put on there, and I think I was up to like a little over 10,000 followers, and
Nice.
I hit the 100,000 views with the first video. But I was on my way down to our place in Alabama. It was a 5-hour drive, and before I left, Rachel Maddow had a tweet about one of the January 6th rioters being caught with a gun, and she said that she had heard that the gun had 2 rounds in the chamber. So the only video I put up that had my face in it, and all I said was, can you believe that MSNBC pays Rachel Maddow $30 million a year to convince 47 million American gun owners that a pistol can hold 2 rounds in one chamber? And I said, that doesn't sound like a very good business decision. And I put that up, and then 3 days later, I hadn't even put a video up. I wake up and it said my account had been banned, and they completely deleted the account. So I was like, I'm done with that. I made another one, and I had a couple of those parody videos up. I think I have like close to 500 followers now, but I don't really focus on it. I walk the line on Facebook.
I meant to mention this to you. If you like Facebook, I posted a video of John Gales today. I think you'll like my site if you're not already on it. I have a website called The Pussification of America, and that's me. I run it, and it's on Facebook. It's a page. I've got about 40,000 followers, and unfortunately, they've banned me from sharing it. People, I can't advertise on it. They've banned me every way, but the page is still there. So if you ever send me any of your parody videos, I'll put them up there for people to take a look at. I've got a pretty good following on there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's kind of funny. But listen, I want to ask you something else real quickly. I mean, we're at 40 minutes. I don't know how much time you have. I'm in no rush today, but I want to ask you, for the people that are in here, you might have some people that are interested also in maybe getting a couple of financial tips for you. We have a financial analyst here. And again, I was very lucky in my life where I had a father that was, into numbers, into business, and always encouraged me to be frugal and invest in the market. And if you do it the right way, by the time you get older, you'll be able to retire. I can tell all of you that, again, at my age, 53 years old, I've been very, very aggressive in saving my entire life and investing it into the market. And, my wife and I could both retire right now if we wanted to. We don't, because we like to work. And it's true that if you do pay yourself first, that, as you get older, you will end up in very good shape, financially, and save whatever you can. But do you have any tips as to what you could maybe share with some of the listeners about some things they can do to maybe improve their financial future?
Yeah. Some of the things I find most common, because I've worked with everyone and I've been doing this since I was 22.
Okay.
Since I've been out of college, and I've worked with everyone of all incomes. I would say the one thing is, don't be scared to invest. A lot of people they're timid to start. It really is one of those things that, people know they should do it, but they don't.
Right.
Be proactive in it. And going back to like what you said, save your money, be smart about it. But there's a lot of resources out there now. There's a lot of platforms. There's a lot of information. You can go and just don't be scared, especially if you're younger, like myself, someone like myself. Don't be scared to go out and invest your money. And, I think everyone should read up, even if you don't have a lot of money to invest, everyone should read up on finance. Everyone should become informed about how the markets work, how just anything in that, trying to think, anything regarding the markets and investing in your income, and learn about how to calculate your taxes, learn about what the government's taking from you, learn about your Social Security and your Medicare, because the more you know, the more informed that you are, the better off you're going to be. It doesn't take $1,000 a month into the stock market to become rich or wealthy. Just be patient, and a lot of it is just knowledge based. And the people that I've worked with that have money, that do invest, that's where I think the difference is. The people that were proactive, that had an interest in doing it.
No, I mean, it's all good advice. I can tell you that, over the course of my life, one of the things that, is scary sometimes, like I was investing right through the Great Recession, and I had a lot of friends that when the market, tanked, I had a lot of friends that were talking about, geez, I'm going to sell, I'm going to get out. And I'm saying to them, I'm like, why are you going to get out now? I mean, this is the time to buy more. When things are low, dump some money in. I mean, this is the buying opportunity. So you're right. You kind of have to have, brass ones a little bit when you're in the market. But if you do, I think, have, the plan to invest for the long term and not, sell every time you dip and every time it goes up, sell again. I mean, you need to have a plan and have like your goal, maybe 20, 30 years down the road, because you will end up in a good place if you stick with it, because historically the market does continue to go up. Now, let me ask you a question from my own personal knowledge. Now, I have 200,000 shares of Dogecoin. Am I stupid? Should I be getting out of that, or should I hang in there until it goes back up again?
I got to be careful what I say regarding financial advice.
Right. Okay. If you can't answer it, don't answer it. I'm not aware of the rules.
What I would say is, look, I am one of those people, if there's money to be made, there's money to be made. Okay. Right. The smart thing to do, and this goes for everyone, and you know this, right, is that if you're putting all of your money into an investment, that would be not very smart. Okay.
Right.
Now, I'm not here to tell anyone what to be.
And this is disposable. Yeah. If we lose it, it's not the end of the world. It will live.
Then I don't see an issue. If it's money that you have that you're okay with losing, right? It could be gone, and it is not going to change your life. Well, what else would you have done with that money? What? Go buy something, right? Go
something.
Spend it. Yeah. So, is it the best investment? I don't know. It could be, but there's worse things you could have done with the money.
Yeah, I'm not looking at this as like a long-term investment. I'm looking at it as something where, if I can make some quick cash on it, great, I'll dump it and get out. I mean, one of the things we're going to do is, unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away back in July, and my wife inherited some money from her father. And one of the stocks that he owns is Alibaba out of China. And she's down in that stock, I think, about $13,000. So she's going to dump it before the end of the year and take that tax loss to kind of help us financially, not maybe pay as much taxes. And that's something we've done in the past where, if a stock's down, you dump it, you take the tax loss, and then you can buy it back if you want to in 30 days, and you still get that tax benefit.
Get rid of the wash,
people right now who are down, should people be selling stocks at this point to take that tax loss, or is that a bad plan?
That's all situational. Everyone is different. There are certain strategies that allow for that. Okay. And the advice I would give on someone is all going to be specific to their situation, because, maybe someone like myself, maybe I'm not selling because maybe I don't need the tax loss to write off. Some people don't. And so that is a real case specific question. And that kind of goes into another thing of advice I would say is, if you're going to go and get help financially from an advisor, make sure you're working with a fiduciary, someone who doesn't care about your holdings, how much you have. They're only going to care about what your situation is and give you advice based off of what is best for you. And, as far as the market as a whole in selling stock, unless you have a specific reason, like you just said, that scenario of taking advantage of the tax loss and helping you on the tax end, look at the S&P's history. It's only gone up. Has it had down years? Absolutely. But over time, it's only gone up. And, as far as going back to the Doji coin and the crypto markets, what I wanted to say on that too is I was someone especially when I first started out, that was very critical of that market. And the reason being is that it's a currency or a form of one. However, it was a currency that at that time, and I know it's changed a little bit, but you couldn't use that crypto to buy anything with. And I had I called it the gift card theory. If you got a gift card to go to Outback, and on the back of the gift card, it may have 2 or 3 other restaurants that you could use that gift card at. Let's say the other restaurants was like a Chili's and a Fridays or something like that. Well, if you walked into the ale house with that gift card, it was worthless. And if you went anywhere to buy or to use Bitcoin that didn't accept it, well, it was worthless. So people were investing into an asset that couldn't be used for what it was supposed to be. And I never agreed with putting money into something like that. At least the dollar, having cash, you could go and buy whatever, exchange it for something else, because all it is a medium of exchange. But now you start seeing the Bitcoin ATM machines everywhere. You start seeing these professional athletes taking advantage of it. You start seeing, I think more places like Tesla and all them were willing to accept it. And so I was wrong as far as that. But at the same time, that's kind of what changed my mind a little bit about it. But
it's risky. I mean, there's no doubt. And before we go on to the next thing, I want to mention something. I saw Rounding Third made a couple of good points. And this is something that's important. I mean, if you are selling stock at all, you have to make sure whether you're looking at a short-term or long-term capital gain, because if you keep your stock for a year and you sell it, you pay a much lower percentage in taxes than if you're flipping stocks. I mean, that's one thing where if you buy something and you make, a decent amount of money, you sell it a month later, then you're paying, what is it, a 40% tax, I think, right on that?
It could be, it's whatever your income is. Right. It's based off your income. Short-term and long-term capital gains are still based off your income as far as what percentage you pay. Short-term are taxed more like at income levels, right? Long-term capital gains are taxed less, but it's still if you're making $30,000 a year and you sell a stock that you had some long-term gains on, you may not pay any taxes on it at all.
That makes sense.
And just like dividends are taxed as income as well. So if you had say $200,000 in something like Exxon that pays a 4% dividend or whatever, and you're making 4% of that $200,000 every year, you got to pay taxes on that every year as income. If it's in, depending on what kind of account it's in, if it's in an IRA, then you wouldn't. It's all specific because you have different accounts do different things. If it's just a regular brokerage account that you can pull money out of any time, that's where your tax liabilities are going to come into play as far as in the immediate term. If you have a Roth IRA, then you won't have to worry about any of those tax issues. And if you have a traditional IRA or a regular 401k, then you're going to have to worry about the tax stuff only at the time that you're pulling money from the account. So, it's all different. They all have the pros and cons to them and something that they're trying to accomplish. But, one thing that also really turned me off and going back to the whole Biden administration is that in their Build Back Better plan, they're looking at imposing taxes on unrealized capital gains. And if they do that, that is going to be a huge, 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 huge problem, in my opinion, in our markets and in this country as a whole, because now you are allowing the government to tax money that is not real, because unrealized gains are exactly as they sound. They're unreal gains. Just because you buy a stock at $100 and you still own it, and the next day it's at 110, it says you made $10, but that's only on paper. That gain isn't real because the next day it could be right back at 100 or it could be at 90.
Right.
It fluctuates. You only make or lose money in the market when you sell. That's the only thing that makes it real.
I like his comment where he just said you're looking at a Roth conversion now. My wife and I have been doing that. We've been taking advantage of backdoor Roths. That's something. My wife is a doctor, and she's in this doctor fire group on Facebook where we've been converting some of our money backdoor into a Roth. So I didn't know that was going away, or it might be going away. I'm sure that that's probably something they're looking at, I would imagine.
So as far as that, I have to read more on what they are looking to do with IRAs. One thing I know that they want to do is they want to cap people that have so much in a 401k. I think it was like if you had $10 million in a retirement account, you weren't going to be allowed to fund any more money into those accounts.
Really?
As far as, they were looking at capping that. And, a lot of people say, oh, well, $10 million in a retirement account, that's just crazy. And that's a lot of money, but there are a lot of people that have that amount in a 401k.
It's not crazy.
And the Roth conversions, that's a good thing. We talk about a lot of that with our clients. There's actually a good book, you may have heard of it. It's called The Power of Zero, written by David McKnight. And he talks about those Roth conversions and a LERP strategy that is about getting people into the 0% tax bracket in retirement that have a lot of those funds in a traditional IRA or a 401k and doing the Roth conversions. So it is a good strategy, and again, it is specific to the people that are doing it. But those are things that I think a lot of people have this, and even our government has this view that, only the rich have access to that stuff. No, anyone can partake in strategies like this.
You have to know the rules.
Is it easier for the rich? Yes, they have more money. Is it easier for someone to do Roth conversions if they have a good amount of money in their traditional IRA or 401k? Yeah, it is easier. But that doesn't mean that someone else can't take advantage of the same strategy.
Yeah, I can tell you, if any of you in here, want to invest, and I'm not selling anything here, but if any of you are looking to invest, and if any of you want to, eventually retire as a millionaire, it can be done. Don't feel like it's not for you. But I think one of the things is if you don't understand a lot about finance, learn about it, read about it, or contact someone like Michael that is an expert in this, because there are a lot of things that you can do that are not, they're just there for the rich. There are a lot of ways where you can cut back on the taxes you pay. There are a lot of ways where you can maximize the gains that you make in the stock market, and you don't have to be, and rounding third, you're right. The first million is the hardest. There's no doubt about that. Once you get that first $1 million in the bank or in the stock market, you'd be surprised how much money you can make in it just on interest alone. And I mean, not to be too much of a douche on this, but I mean, to give you an idea, last week, my wife and I both work. We've both been saving in 401ks our whole lives. And this isn't something that we've done, it's just through hard work. Last week, I think one day the market was up big, and my wife and I made $36,000 in one day. With
and that's common. It's more common than people think.
Day. Yep, one day. I mean, and that we didn't do anything. I said that day I had an office day. I was working remotely. I checked the balance the end of the day, $36,000 in one day. And that's if you pay yourself first, you save the money before you pay anybody else. You get it into even start with an S&P 500, in fund or something. It doesn't have to be individual stocks. We really don't invest in individual stocks. We use mutual funds and things like that. You can retire with a shitload of money and you'll be set for life, but you got to do it. You got to be disciplined, and you got to pay yourself first, especially if you can start when you're young. If you can start when you're young, that's the best time to start, because then you make more in the long run,
Absolutely. No, long term, here's the thing. And I told people this that I've worked with. Until there's a day where day trader is worth more money than Warren Buffett, then I will start saying that day trading is the way to go. But until then, which it hasn't happened, there's a reason why you have someone like Warren Buffett, who is a long-term value investor, who is worth one of the richest people in the world, and there's no day traders that are up there even close. And go read about people like that in the decisions that they make, and and what they look at. Don't be one of those people that are just investing in a stock because Wall Street Bets said so. Can you make money every once in a while? Yeah, but you can make money gambling too. And
you don't know what they know. You don't have the inside information that other people have.
exactly.
And you may think that you can outsmart the market, but the people that are making the decisions in there are a lot smarter than most of us. They are geniuses in finance. The guy I talked about, my buddy, he does asset-based lending for a bank, and he's the president of Berkshire Bank up here in Massachusetts. And he got his bachelor's from BC, MBA from BU. He's a genius, financial genius. And he makes a lot of money, but he's good at what he does, and he knows, and he knows a lot,
And even with that said, there was a study, and I've read a few things about this. Can't remember when the study was. I can get it to you though, but they got the smartest economists and analysts in the world that went to all these Ivy League schools, had the doctorates, they're on the news, MSNBCs that are, talking about the market. And they went through and had all of them do predictions on different things, like where the economy was going, different investments, stock picks, all that stuff. And the study showed that they were only correct, I think, 47% of the time, which means that you were better off flipping a coin than you were listening to someone who is an analyst like that. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but the whole point of what I'm saying is if you're going to invest in the long term, your chances of being successful, you're already far at an advantage of someone who's going to invest over a month or 2 months. And just because you have people telling you to do something or telling you to allocate money a certain way does not mean that that's the right thing to do. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but at the same time, you just got to be careful on the way you approach investing. Just make sure that you're also doing your own reading and your own research on certain things, and have a plan, have a strategy, and stick to it. And long-term investing is always going to outperform any other kind of investment. And the other thing too, when you're talking about the retirement accounts and the 401k, and that's great that you and your wife have taken advantage of that. And you would hope that more people would take advantage of something like that. And what also bothers me about where we currently are at in the United States is we have elected officials that preach all the time that Americans, aren't in the market, and they make you believe that only the rich are investing in the stock market, and they're implementing policies that are only going to impact the rich with the market. And that's not true, especially with the unrealized capital gains tax. That's going to carry over into people that own mutual funds. Because if you tax Elon Musk, his unrealized capital gains on $200 billion, let's say you tax 20% of that, would that be $40 billion that they would pull from him? Elon Musk does not have $40 billion in cash sitting around to pay that tax. So what does he have to do? He has to liquidate that stock. Well, who do you think is the largest shareholder in Tesla? It's probably Vanguard or some kind of mutual fund company. And the people that own these Vanguard mutual funds are you and me and everyone else, just regular everyday people. And if you start taking away from the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk and forcing people to pull money out of the markets, it's going to crush the everyday American's 401k and retirement account, or any account, anyone that holds these funds or these stocks. It carries over. You're not just taxing the rich, you're taxing everyone. Or a mutual fund to make up for tax gains, what are they going to do? They're going to pass those taxes through the mutual fund to the person that owns it, or they're going to increase the expense ratios in their funds and eat out of their returns. There's a lot of things that are going to happen when they impact the rich that'll carry over into everyone else's lives. The other thing that, and if you haven't ever done the numbers on it, I can kind of go off the top of my head with it, but I've done a study myself for Social Security. Without Social Security, if we were able to reallocate that money, that 6.2% that a W-2 employee pays, or it'd be someone like myself who's self-employed, I pay 12.4%. I pay the whole portion. But if you're able to reallocate that money away from Social Security and put it into, let's say, a 401k, we would have almost every American making, I'd comfortably say over $30,000 a year, if they started it at 22, 23 years old out of college or whenever, would retire a millionaire easily. And not only would they retire a millionaire, they'd be able to live comfortably in retirement, and they would have money to pass down to their heirs. So, the government is all about wanting to help people and wanting to implement these social spending strategies, but they don't want to actually put in a plan and address what the problem is. Social Security is the biggest expenditure that the United States has, and is responsible for the majority of our debt as a country. Getting rid of it would eliminate the debt, and making people reallocate that to the markets. First of all, the money would go into the private industry and the stock market, and that makes these companies that invest in these companies and allows them to become more innovative, and a lot of benefit there. But just, it would far outperform any Social Security funding that we have. No one ever that I've talked to that has income from Social Security only in retirement is living a comfortable retirement. In fact, they're broke, probably living in government housing, and unless they made a lot of money, so those are things that I think people should be aware of when the government's talking about doing certain things and implementing certain strategies that go down to an investment like your 401ks or Social Security or whatever. You need to know, and you need to be informed on what that does to you as an investor in the market. It impacts everyone. You can say all day, "Oh, that doesn't impact me. I'm not rich. I don't have money in the stock market." Well, if you have a 401k, you do have money in the stock market. Maybe your spouse does, maybe your dad does, whoever. It impacts everybody. Hello?
John, you're muted.
Oh. Wasn't sure if I went down a road where I was, no one could hear me.
We can't hear you, John.
Can you hear me, Eric?
I can still hear you.
Okay.
I think we're, went over like a little over an hour. I think this has certainly been a great conversation. We certainly had on, of course, Michael Key of the Real Conservative Talk podcast. We certainly encourage you to give him a follow if you're interested in checking out his podcast. Yeah. He'll go live here on Podbean, and he will also publish shows as well.
Yeah.
Coming up on Podbean Live, you've got, coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern Time today is the John Gill program. And he will also be John's guest on Thursday. I'm out somewhere. I do apologize if you're hearing a lot of background noise.
Oh, you're good.
You've also got the Beans and Weenie show coming up at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you've got the Frankie D show coming up later this week, as well as hopefully the Slightly Serious show might be coming back this week, but James will keep us posted. The Old Man's Podcast with Dina, Joe, and Eric, weekdays 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and you've also got the dude Sean. You've got Psych Radio 2 Alpha on Wednesday. And you've also got The Swap Doesn't Lie on Friday, and you've also got Mike Tampa Bay, and you've also got The Gray Area and Ralph William, and the dude Sean, and the It's Doomsday podcast on Sunday evenings, the Podfather show on Friday evenings, and so many, many more. And we look forward to getting to do more of these Get to Know Your Podcaster interviews very soon. And if you're interested in being a guest on the Get to Know Your Podcaster series, just reach out to John. His email is thejohndevitoshow@gmail.com. And do you have any closing thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, no, I want to say, John, I appreciate you giving me your time to come on here and talk. And my show's going to go live here in about 30 minutes, I believe, at 12 o'clock with Zach. And, so if you guys want to go check that out, it's Real Conservative Talk. And, we're also on Facebook and YouTube as well. You can check us out there too. So thank you, John. Exactly. I appreciate it. And, yeah.
Love you and God bless you, everybody. And we look forward to meeting again soon. And hopefully podcast friends like John DeVito and Slightly Serious, the Old Man, and Jester, and so many others. We're all about perfecting the art of conversation in a manner that's very unfiltered, and you have the freedom also to be yourself, and and hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Monday, and if you like what you're listening to, and we certainly appreciate you listening, and we certainly hope you come back for more episodes, and also check out previously published episodes of John's, and we hope everybody's looking forward to the Christmas and New Year's holidays coming up, and look forward to, just make it a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon, John, and we're out.